सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। हरि। From today on, we will be starting the Kathopanishad. This Kathopanishad starts in the Kathaka Shakha, and it is in the Taittiriya Brahmana. And this particular Upanishad, along with the Mundaka Upanishad, has been the very favorite of Bhagavan Shri Krishna to be able to quote it while giving advice to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. This Kathopanishad, many times what happens, for convenience, we write the Sanskritam or Telugu or any other native Indian language into English, and then we start reading things in the Englishized manner and change the very pronunciation of Sanskritam. For example, the very language Sanskritam, we write it in English, and then very casually we start calling that language itself as Sanskrit rather than Sanskritam. That very beautiful language, which is well-defined language, the most enchanting language, we have completely changed its very pronunciation by Englishizing it. Another example, the Tamil Nadu city, Tanjavur, it propagates a very beautiful painting system called the Tanjavur painting system. But then we write that into English and then pronounce it as Tanjore painting. And surprisingly, Tamilians also pronounce it Tanjore. I mean, heights of Englishizing it. So we write this Upanishad in English and then call it, now confusion, because in English we write it as, there is no tha, so we write it as THA and then pronounce it as Kathopanishad. It is not Kathopanishad, it is Kathopanishad. It comes in the Taittiriya Brahmana, Kathaka Shakha, because it was given by the Rishi, Katha Rishi, and the Guru Sishya Parampara of this Katha Rishi is often recognized as Kathaka Rishi Parampara. And in that Kathaka Rishi Parampara, we see this Kathopanishad. So whenever in the discourse we refer to it as Kathaka Rishi, it is not one particular Rishi, but it is system of Guru Parampara in which this particular Upanishad reflects. So it is not Kathopanishad, it is Kathopanishad. In the Upanishadic literature from the Vedanta segment of Vedas, there are several Upanishads. In the recent past, there have been several attempts whenever there is a great Rishi, great Mahatma, great Sadhu who has brought the individual sadhakas into a different realm of spiritual heights. Out of their particular reverence to that particular guru or master, all that which has been spoken by or addressed by that particular Mahatma, one, they start calling that Mahatma as Avatara Purusha. Exaggeration, but to show the reverence. And the volume of everything that that particular Mahatma has spoken, I mean, there are several ways to express it. Vachanamrita, Kathanamrita. But in some cases, we have seen it being addressed as the particular master, their name, and then call it as their Upanishad. Not that there is that Upanishad, but just to exaggerate their reverence towards their particular master. Seeing this, there have been other attempts as well. For example, during the so-called Akbar the Great, I am still to find what is great about him, but still nonetheless, the very name meaning is meaning that he is the Great. But Akbar the Great, he commissioned a particular Upanishad to be written. It is called Allopanishad. Even such attempts have been made. Similarly, by other religions, because Upanishad is a very sacred volume for us in the Sanatana way of approach. We find the proof of how many Upanishads that we have. There is within the Upanishadic literature one beautiful Upanishad called Upanishad. It is a dialogue between Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra ji and Hanuman ji. In that Upanishad, Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra ji narrates 108 lists of Upanishads. So within the Upanishadic literature, we find the mention of 108, including Upanishad. That's a huge volume, 108 Upanishads. Of these, there are two which are quite voluminous. One is Chandogya Upanishad. The other is, the very name of that Upanishad is Brihat. Brihat meaning huge, large, gigantic. So we find that there are 108 Upanishads and the volume of that Upanishad is, Upanishadic literature is huge. But among these 108 Upanishads, we find 10 Upanishads in the academic sense have been classified as major Upanishads, and the rest of them have been classified as minor Upanishads. So people who usually have heard about Upanishads, they often have the question that the minor Upanishads have lesser of Upanishadic essence and the major Upanishads have more of the Upanishadic essence. That is not the reason why they have been classified as major Upanishad and minor Upanishad. The reason why the 10 are called the major Upanishads and the rest of them as minor Upanishad. Within the Sanatana Parampara, we have several traditions. Now, when I say traditions, there are different sampradayas. Within the sampradaya classification, you can look at the specific worship system. Worship system wherein we know those who worship Bhagavan Shiva are called Shaiva, Bhagavan Vishnu, they are called Vaishnava, Shakta, Ganapatya, Saurya, Bhagavan Surya. All those who do the Gayatri mantra, they are called Saurya. And there has been an addition, Kaumarya, those who worship Kartikeya. So this is the classification with respect to the form of Ishvara that you worship. Then there are classifications based on the philosophical approach. In that philosophical approach, we have Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, then we have Dvaita, Nimbarka, Gaudiya. There are several such paramparas. So the classification of major Upanishad and minor Upanishad happens to be from the standpoint that whenever there is a sampradaya, a tradition, a traditional approach has been approached, they are expected to explain their standpoint of sampradaya by commenting upon 3 volumes of our Vedantic literature. Those 3 volumes are called Prasthanatrayi. Prasthanatrayi has the Upanishads, then there is Bhagavad Gita, and then there is the 555 sutras by Bhagavan Vedavyasji. It is called the Brahma Sutras. So you find that the Bhagavan Bhashyakara Adi Shankaracharya ji has commented on this volume of Prasthanatrayi. Wherever this tradition has to be established, they pick to comment on these 10 different Upanishads. And because to establish a tradition, a sampradaya, they have chosen to comment on these 10 major Upanishads. Therefore, the major tag, the word of major, is applied. Not that in the minor Upanishad there is less of Upanishadic essence and that in the major Upanishads there is more of Upanishadic essence. In fact, the entire volume speaks of one truth alone. Its very pointer, the very volume's name is called Upanishad. Upanishad meaning that Upa meaning that which takes you closest, Nischayena, with no doubt, with absolute certainty. That which takes us closer with absolute certainty towards Sat. Now, why does Sat becomes Shat? It becomes Shat because it is following the letter Ni. Whenever the word, the Sa is followed by, it is following Ni, then the Sa becomes Sha. There is a specific Paninian grammar rule, in which the Sat becomes Shat. Therefore, it is called Upanishad, which means that pointer which takes us with absolute certainty to the highest truth, Sat Padartha. Therefore, it is called Upanishad. We have already seen couple of times, more than a couple of times, as to where do we find these Upanishads in the labyrinth of Vedic literature. It's quite vast, quite huge, but in order to understand, it is again classified in different ways. Today I will classify it into three different volumes. One is called Karma Kanda, the second is called Upasana Kanda, and the third is called the Jnana Kanda. The third part, which is the last part of the Vedic literature, therefore it is called the Vedanta. All the Upanishadic volume is also known as Vedanta, because it literally comes at the end of the Vedic literature. Now, whenever I say the end of Vedic literature, we who have been educated in the new modern way of learning, the moment we say end, so we have an imagination of a book, a volume, and the very end is the last few pages. Oh, so it is a glossary note. Oh, that is not how it has to be understood. Therefore, the further classification of Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, and Jnana Kanda goes into the detail that when you take the entire Vedic literature, that Vedic literature is having 4 different volumes in it. These 4 different volumes are called, the first portion is called the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda or Atharvana Veda. Within each volume of this Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva Veda, we find that the introduction, the first portion, okay, before I go to the first portion, in each Veda volume, we find that the Vedic literature has several themes of study. Each theme of study is called Samhita. Samhita meaning that which is absolute, or that which does absolute good to the individual who is seeking it, learning it. Within the Samhita, there are 4 portions. The first portion is called Mantra, the second is called Brahmana, the third is called the Aranyaka, and the fourth is called the Upanishad or the Vedanta. Mantra, you can call it as the formula to understand that particular theme which the Samhita is trying to suggest. The application of that formula or mantra in that particular theme of study, in its practicality when it is applied, it is called the Brahmana. Brahmana meaning being the expert and having the expertise in that application of that mantra is called Brahmana. It is not the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. That is not the classification here. Here Brahmana means that expertise. Brahmana. Aranyaka, that which is the further research on this, that which has been applied, further subtleties added, that is called the Aranyaka. This is also known as, in the earlier classification, as the Upasana Kanda. And the last one is the Upanishadic wisdom, which is called the Vedanta. Therefore, the entire volume of the Upanishadic literature is named as Vedanta, the last portion of Vedas. Now, when I say last portion, now you can visualize that it is not the end glossary note, but it is of each theme, the essence of that theme. And each pointer of the Upanishad is pointing at that one absolute truth alone. in that list, highly placed because of the dialogue that happens in this particular Upanishad, because the dialogue is between Bhagavan Yama, Yamadharmaraja, and a young student and young aspirant whose name is Nachiketas. In Sanskritam, when we write the word, that noun, it ends with sakara. Therefore, it is Nachiketas, the actual name. Again, we have anglicized it. Therefore, the word we often hear and use is Nachiketa. The actual word noun form is Nachiketas. The first, when you do the Shabda Rupa of it, it becomes Nachiketa. The root word is Nachiketas. So the dialogue between Yamadharmaraja and Nachiketas. And it is also popular because the narrative is in a very beautiful dialogue in a story format between the teacher and the taught. This particular Upanishad has 2 segments to it, and each segment has 3 chapters or 3 vallis, as it is called. Without much ado, I think I have given enough introduction into the Upanishadic structure, why it is named as Upanishad, why it is called the major Upanishad, and what is the difference between major Upanishad and minor Upanishad. Now we will get into the actual part of this Upanishad. The Shanti mantra we have already chanted, which is Sahana Bhavatu. Therefore, we don't need to get into that particular mantra. This is a very beautiful Shanti mantra before every learning process, because it is chanted by both the teacher and the taught. In every parampara, in every single session. Because whenever there is a teaching to be done, it is a dialogue between the teacher and the student. And how should that environment be? That environment is suggested in this particular mantra. Sahana Bhavatu. May we both meaning the teacher and the taught, put this effort. Sahana Bhavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. When the effort of this dialogue is being initiated, because the subject is very subtle, it can be difficult to understand, difficult to grasp. It is not just the responsibility of the teacher, it is not just the responsibility of the student. Sahanau Bhunaktu, whatever be the result, it is both the teacher and the taught, it is both of their responsibilities. Therefore, let us both accept the result of it. If the student says, I have not understood, it is a teacher's responsibility to take it forward in trying to go through that particular logic again until the student puts the effort in understanding. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Saha Vidyam Karavavahi. As much as we see that the teacher has the effort to speak and give the subtleties in that format which the student can appreciate and understand. Similarly, the student is not just a mute witness wherein it is heard, Shravanam, then there is Manana, and then there is Nididhyasana. So let both the teacher and taught put that vigorous effort, Sahaviryam Karavavahi. And may this effort lead us to Tejasvinavadhitamastu. May our intellects shine forth with this knowledge as understanding. In the buddhi, may it shine forth as this tejas, this illumination, tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma vidvishavahi. Often it is seen that whenever such dialogue, that format is established, between the very students, there can be a lot of comparisons, lot of confusions because of those comparisons, which leads to unhealthy competitions, leading to jealousy, partiality. There's a lot that could happen. May there be no unnecessary hatred within this environment. Let there be no judgmental environment. Because we have had students like Ashtavakra. There is that famous dialogue that when he comes to King Janaka's court, all the Panditas, all the great people that were sitting there, they cannot resist but laugh at looking Ashtavakra. So Ashtavakra looks at everyone and then addresses King Janaka, and he says, I have often heard that in your particular court there are great Panditas, but all I see is chamar. Chamar, the cobbler, those who work with leather. All I see is nothing but these chamar, those who are cobblers. Everybody is shocked at that statement. And what Ashtavakra meant, that these are supposed to be those that are reveling in the highest, but they are all giggling and laughing, mocking at my skin level, which the body is, which is deformed. Ashta Vakra. In 8 different parts of his limbs, he had deformity. And that catches the attention of everyone. So this knowledge is not limited to only one particular classification of people. Anybody who has that interest and the viveka to understand the highest, they are often allowed into this threshold of Vedantic wisdom. And may this bring peace, tapatraya be avoided. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shanti. After that, we get into the first adhyaya, Prathamavalli, which is in a very beautiful story format. So repeat after me. Om Ushan Havai Vajashravasah Sarvaveda Samdadau Tasyaha Nachiketa Nama Putra Asa. In our Sanatana way of life, we have 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. Chaturvarna and Chatur ashramas. Amongst those 4 ashramas, there is the first phase of life, which is called Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, that phase of life wherein the student has to dedicatedly, with complete focus, complete attention, involve in learning. Learning is the criteria, Brahmacharya. In fact, there is a beautiful saying, Vidyarthinah sukham tyajet, sukharthinah vidyam tyajet. Brahmachari is that who is a Vidyarthi. Vidyam arthayate, that who is focused on learning. And what is the biggest hindrance in learning? to have leisure and enjoy. If your focus is on enjoyment, then stop being a student. Stop being a Vidyarthi. If you are being a Vidyarthi, learn to discipline oneself. It's not an easy way. So the first phase is of Vidyarthi, Brahmachari. Then there is the responsibility taken of being in Grihastha. And the third phase of life is when your responsibility towards your children is done. They have been educated, they have gone to Gurukula, they have learnt, and then they have come back, they have started earning, they have had their first earnings given to the Guru as Guru Dakshina, their support to that very institution that has taught them this beautiful knowledge and system, and then they take up the responsibility of getting into Grihastha. After that, responsibility of Grihastha is done, where your children are educated and then they are married and they have their first child. Once you have seen the first child, then you have to enter into that which is called Vanaprastha. Now, in today's day and world, Vana meaning Vana, Prasthana. You have to go live in solitude. Start learning to live in solitude. We now seldom have forests. We have only the apartment Vana. Especially you cross into the further west side, you find it is apartment Ghana, apartment Vana. So all that we are now, it is, you can say, apartment Prastha. There also you can find solitude, but it is the interest to live independently without any support. The focus should be that you intensify your upasana, shravana manana nididhyasana, and live a life steadfast in focusing to reach to the highest. At about the age of 50, 51, you get into Vanaprastha. Then the last phase of life is called sannyasa. This, there are two kinds of ways, roads. One, we call it as the business as usual roads, which have lot of traffic signals, which have lot of traffic. And then there are the highways. For example, with reference to Hyderabad, you can call it ORR, where there are no traffic signals. There is a higher speed. There are no speed breakers. Similarly, in life, what I just said, from Brahmacharya to Grihastha to Vanaprastha to Sannyasa, that is the usual business route, which has lot of traffic signals and speed breakers. And then there is a highway. Straight from Brahmacharya, you can get into Sannyasa. Now here, in this particular case, Ushan Havai Vajashravasah, the son of Vajashravas, he was having the intensity to get into the sannyas ashrama, so he had this final desire. What was that? To do a yaga which is called Vajashravasa Yaga. That Vajashravasa Yaga is also known as Vishwajita Yaga, in which all the property, assets and things that you own Everything is given away in charity. Kings, usually when they would go for the conquers, after having conquering the various kingdoms, they would come with their wealth. They would do the Vajasravasa Yaga and distribute all that wealth to different classes of people so that the kingdom flourishes. Grihasthas also did this, that all that which they owned, it is not for the purpose like what we think today, that let me earn healthily so that I can leave a healthy will in the name of my children. It is to be that they have to grow independently on their own effort to find their own financial stability and security. Whatever is that which the parent has earned, it was donated, it was given up. Like today we have stocks. In the olden days, it was livestock. That was also wealth. Land, gold, and various things that you have accumulated. All of this, you perform that yaga, call various segments of the society, and then distribute them accordingly. So, this son of Vajasravasa, he did the sankalpa, Ushan, he took the sankalpa to do this Vishwajita yaga. And he happened to have several children. Amongst those several children, one of them, a very young fellow, his name was Nachiketa. Ushan havai vajasravasaha sarvaveda samdadau tasyaha Nachiketa nama putra asa. This Nachiketa was one of the children. He was quite young. He was still in the Bala Avastha. Bala Avastha, about 5-6 years old, not more than that. Now, they're talking about that Nachiketa in the second mantra. Tam ha kumaram santam dakshinasu niyamanasu Shraddha avivesha so manyata tam ha kumaram santam, that son Nachiketa, he was looking at the Vajasravasa Yaga, Vishwajita Yaga, which was being performed by his father, and he started thinking. How did he think? Shraddha avivesha. His heart was filled with Shraddha. Long time ago, when I was addressing in a university, this was in US. After my lecture, I said, if you have any doubts, please ask. Because in the Indian way of using English, questions and doubts, we see them as synonyms, as meaning the same. Even when I was studying, our teacher would say, if you have any doubts, come after the class, meet me in the staff room, and we will clarify your doubts. Up until then, I had not picked the dictionary to understand what is the difference between a doubt and a question. So here in this university, after I had spoken with the group of students that were there in that university, at the end I said, if you have any doubts, we have 15-20 minutes, please ask your doubts. One girl promptly raised her hand, stood up, and she clarified something before she asked. She said, "Well, I don't have a doubt, but I have a question." That raised a question mark in my head. I mean, she's so emphatically saying that she has a question and not a doubt. What could be the difference? I thought they both were same. I went back, researched into several dictionaries. What does that word mean? So that is when I had certain clarity. The one who has doubts, usually it means that whatever you have been speaking about, I don't believe a word of it. Therefore, I doubt. Whereas a question is, I kind of understand and believe what you're saying, but there are certain aspects of what you have spoken are not clear. Therefore, seeking that clarity, I have certain questions. You see the difference? A doubt is, I don't believe. A question is, I do believe, but I lack clarity. Therefore, I'm pursuing it with further questions in those aspects which are not clear to me. In our language, if I have to translate this difference, whenever there is a question asked, we usually ask, I mean, the people asking questions, they have different modus in which they ask the questions. One wants to show off that they have also studied, they know, and they want to display what they know. At the end of it, I have to ask them, so what is your question? Because it is more of their display than a question. Then there are those that ask the question and they have a tagline that goes with it. I have asked this question to many people. As soon as I hear, now that I've been speaking on these topics for almost 30 plus years, I have also gained certain insights. Whenever this tagline is seen, right on the outset, I declare, I also will not be able to answer you. Because they want to show that their question is so elaborate, so meaningful, so awesome. They are in love with their own question. They are not seeking, they don't have the love towards learning. They are stuck in their question. They don't have the love for the answer, they have the love for displaying again their own question. Then there is a doubt. So here, whenever there is a question being asked, because in our tradition of Sanatana, it is not a dogma. Vedantic knowledge is not a dogma. It is not a statement made in the scriptures and we are asked to believe. Our dharma, our loose translation, what we use today is religion. Our religion is not a religion of faith. It is said so, therefore you believe in it. In fact, the teacher and the taught, the environment very clearly states, you will not grow if you take it up as a dogma. You will certainly grow if you ask the right, appropriate questions. No Rishi was ever scared of being questioned. Because nobody was doubting their authority. The questions are encouraged. We in fact have in Bhagavad Gita and various aspects of scriptures wherein it said, if ever you have any questions, go to the expert and ask your questions until you get the clarification. Don't shy away. If you don't ask questions, you will never grow. So whenever the question is asked, it can be asked with Shraddha or without Shraddha. When asked with Shraddha, your intention is the clarification, so that your understanding crystallizes and you mature to grow. But when you ask the same question without Shraddha, you are either challenging or you are coming with a closed mindset, not for growth, not for understanding. So here, Nachiketa, he started questioning whatever his father was doing out of Shraddha. Now, this word Shraddha is a very strange word, because I don't find a good translation of this word as is in any of the Western languages. Adi Shankaracharya ji comes to our rescue. He defines what Shraddha is. In Viveka Chudamani, he says, when there is the sixfold qualities, Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadhi, Shatka Sampatti. That Shatka Sampatti, sixfold qualities, one of the important ones is Shraddha. There he defines that word Shraddha. He says in Viveka Chudamani, Vedanta Guru Vakyadishu Satya Buddhyavadharana iti Shraddha. There are 4 aspects where you need to have implicit trust. One is the Guru, the one who is teaching. Second, that which is being taught, the scriptures, to have Shraddha in it, to have the firm trust in it. Not from disbelief, from the idea of understanding it. That openness of mind should be there when you are pursuing to study it. Somehow, when we come to the field of spirituality, we become extremely critical, and we call that criticality as my scientific way of approach, which is a bunch of nonsense. I'll prove my standpoint. When we get into the field of the academics, we go through the school, we are introduced to the topic, various topics are introduced. One topic that I'll pick to evaluate is, we are told that the atoms are the building block of this creation. Have you heard of this? Thank you. We have heard of it. We have learnt it that way. Just like when you come to the spiritual field, when you ask the very validity of what is being proposed, have you ever asked the validity of what you are learning? It's supposed to be science, and science is where you will not take blind belief. You should be asking. Now, first I have to understand, I have to see, that is when I'll believe. That is what those who are new entrants into the spiritual field often demand. Don't we? So in the field of that particular topic of atoms, in fact, when I was learning, what I learned in the 8th grade, by the time I came to the 9th grade, the textbooks changed, and that which was taught in the 8th grade was nullified in the 9th grade. I remember very clearly that we were taught something called John Dalton's atomic theory. One of his aspects of theory, pointers of his theory was atom is the smallest indivisible building block of this creation. By the time we came to the ninth grade, science had evolved. They said atom is no more indivisible. Atom have electrons, protons, neutrons, and the neutron, by the time I came to my 10th grade, they said that is also breakable. By the time I came to my 12th, they said the particles within the neutron are also divisible. So what I learnt in 8th, by the time I came to 12th, I had to rewrite the entire thing. That apart, all of you sitting here are from the literate part of the world. You are all educated. You have studied various sciences, various fields. Am I assuming it wrong? You are all educated in very good, sophisticated fields. Has anybody sitting here seen an atom? Seeing is believing, pursuing the truth. What was taught in the field of science. Would it be wrong to say that whatever the teacher taught in the classrooms, did we not take their word for granted? Did we not believe what was taught to us? That it must have been? Because if you truly look at the actual size of the atom, neutron, electron, and that diagram which is shown while they're explaining the atom, there is a neutron in the middle, and then there is a radius around which the electrons are supposed to be moving. It is only later in my studies I understood that diagram on which I based my understanding and belief system is completely off the mark. If there is a tiny dot indicating the nucleus, then the radius of that electron that is going around, it takes about 20 pages put together to show the diameter. What they have shown is one small square bit in which they have put this diagram. For my visualization, that visualization itself was wrong. And none of us have seen the atom. We've been speaking about it with authority. No one has seen. I'm not saying no one has actually seen. The scientists may have. You and I have not seen. But yet, our entire science is it not built on a belief system? Let's come to mathematics. 1 plus 1, 2. 2 plus 2, 4. Isn't it simple? Isn't that what we have learned? By the time we come to the advanced mathematics and we come to the chapter of real number analysis, has anybody studied real number analysis? It's such fun reading it. It's completely mind-boggling. It says 1 or any number for that matter is an arbitrary quantum. Why is it arbitrary? Between 0 and 1, there are how many decimals? Infinite is the decimal point, isn't it? Unending, infinite. Can infinity be quantified as a number 1? You cannot. 1 plus 1, therefore, should be infinite. But in our practical way of transactional world, you never give 1 and say, I have given you infinite. 1 plus 1 is still 2. But in real number analysis, 1 plus 1 is infinite. You get the concept, right? All the learning system, isn't there the investment of a trust and a belief that what is being taught, I take it for granted, believe it, and then build the edifice supporting the logic later. In the field of spirituality also, an initial investment is that there should be that Shraddha. Shraddha in that Guru, that whatever is being taught is for my well-being and welfare. Because what is being taught is not agadam tigadam kind of a thing. There is a Shruti. And the Shruti has a basis, a structure. And the structure is logical, filled with reasoning. Therefore, my trust in the Shruti. Guru, Shruti, Shruti Vakya. And then that Ishvara which is pointed through the Shruti. And the last and the most important, the complete trust in my own self to turn that which is pointed through the Shruti, through the Guru, as my own experience intimate. When all these 4 factors come together, that is called Shraddha. So this kid, Nachiketa, Shraddha Avivesha, complete trust. He started thinking. Thinking about what? Dakshinasu diniyamanasu. That which his father, after the Vajashravasa Yajna, the Vishwajita Yajna, he was giving away Dakshina, his wealth. Looking at that which he was giving, he felt little concerned. And he was concerned out of Shraddha. So he started thinking. And what did he say? He said he needs time to think. He will open up his thinking pattern tomorrow. Why? It is already 7:30. So we will stop here and continue tomorrow early morning. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.